is a process unique to every individual. That shouldn't mean we should go through it all alone. As a mental health professional, I would highly recommend to not go through grief all alone. It would be ideal to have trusted people, family, friends, and or professionals to support us through the process of grief in order to help us generally reduce suffering. And by suffering, we mean the kind we can expect from grief and trauma. We reduce suffering as we cannot keep it out altogether. No? In fact, we want for bereaved family and loved ones to be able to grieve properly. We recognize that there is a process to that. Speaking of process, the most helpful ways for coping after suicide loss include a debriefing process that is usually done in a group format. Iba pa yung counseling sessions, iba pa yung support groups. These different kinds of structured support are helpful in many ways to allow us to ventilate, to allow us to pay attention to very different reactions, no? Coping mechanisms and plans moving forward, to support self-care even while suffering, to properly process what happened, to reflect on the impact of suicide, and to clarify responsibilities, no? O yung mga pananagutan na madalas naman talagang pinag-uusapan, especially after somebody dying from suicide, no? To allow that process of searching for meaning, the ways we search for meaning, and to allow ourselves time and space to suffer with meaning. We want structured support, no? We want to provide support to still appreciate connectedness and belonging in spite or even more so because of the loss. In coping with loss, especially after a suicide, we remind ourselves and understand that it is a process. No? A process that does not go a clear straight line and does not always move in a forward direction. So asahan natin kung sulong po talaga yung karanasan ng grief and bereavement, and with no specified time frame or deadlines, and with no promise that things will go back to the way they were. Hindi natin maasahan na may babalik tayo sa dati. And the grief or trauma process is not always an illness. Now, let's take the next few moments to talk about, to honor that process of grief or bereavement. While each of us grieves and deals with loss differently, somewhere in that mix of emotions and reactions, we can generally expect common and rather predictable grief and trauma reactions, such as emotional reactions. Halimbawa, lungkot, puot, galit, takot, pagkamanhid, pagka-irritable, and in different intensities at different points in time. Physical reactions, halimbawa, actual aches and pains, muscle tension all over, hypervigilance o pagiging balisa, magugulatin. Behavioral reactions, halimbawa, pag-iyak, being withdrawn or isolated, hindi masyado nakikipag-usap or nagsasalita, hindi kumakain, hindi makatulog, o mas dumalas o dumami pag-inom ng alak, o mas palasigaw, o hindi pagpasok sa trabaho. We also have cognitive reactions, halimbawa, obsessive thoughts about the event, yung isip ng isip, self-blame, feeling responsible for what happened, regrets, endless questions, what ifs, even vivid images, flashbacks or memories, o baliktad, blanco ang isip, o hirap mag-focus. And other psychological reactions, also spiritual and interpersonal reactions. These are just some of what we can expect to be normal, though unwanted, normal reactions to an abnormal event. Kung gaano katagal natin pagdadaanan ang prosesong ito, wala naman talaga makakapagsasabi. makakarating din tayo doon sa puntong may mas malawak at mas malalim at mas kalmado na pag-intindi tayo sa nangyari. And while it can still be awfully painful, it would come with meaning. And we start to integrate trauma and loss into our identity and move forward. Now, just a few more reminders. Kung man tayo yung namatayan o nagbibigay konsuelo sa namatayan, magbibigay ako ng ilang halimbawa ng mga madalas natin maranasan, ngunit sana'y iwasan. We'd like to avoid hollow reassurance, kagaya ng he's in a better place or it will all be okay, lalo na kung di naman talaga natin alam yon o di naman talaga natin sigurado. At lalo na kung kasabay ng ganitong mga pahiwatig ay hindi lang talaga tayo handa makarinig, makasalo o mapag-usapan yung lungkot ng namatayan. No? We'd like to avoid asking for explanations or specific details. We'd like to avoid forcing people to remember, to talk, to be ready. And finally, we'd like to make sure we connect with proper resources such as emergency lines. And with that, towards the end of this discussion, we will be again providing some resources, particularly for help and support with depression and suicide prevention. Muli, salamat po. Thank you for keeping the mental health conversation going.
Bakit ako?
Di mo kasi alam kung anong naghihintay.
Hindi mo alam. Huwag ka magdesisyon para sa akin. Yung sakit na naramdaman ko, sa akin lang yun.
Gusto mo? Gusto mo pa rin? Sige.